Hi everybody, I'm just going to be chatting today to Helen from Not About the Kids. We've done a Getting Naked With interview and now this is the exciting live bit. So I'm wearing my red lipstick in preparation and I'm hoping my Wi-Fi is going to hold out as well because it is sketchy during lockdown. I hope everyone's okay and make sure you ask questions too. It's very exciting. Always a bit nervous when I do one of these. It's like just a little bit nerve-wracking before someone joins. I hope you're all okay. Hi everybody. Just waiting. Hope you've got good weather there. It's okay here. It's kind of bright, but a little bit cloudy. It's not the best July weather today. Hey everybody. If anyone's got any questions before we start, just let me know. Just waiting for Helen to come on and give us her... Here she is. Hello, Helen. Okay. And then it comes. Here she is.
Morning.
Morning. I'm wearing my red lipstick for you.
As am I. Obvious. You look lovely.
Your background, nice.
Isn't it? I'm in, actually, this is like the kids' grotty room, but we've got some builders working at the side of the house and they're like flattening something with some really noisy equipment. So I've just come as far away as I can.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm impressed with all the backgrounds people are coming up with. I'm actually in my bedroom because I think it's where the Wi-Fi is going to be best. So I'm like, that's what I'm going with. I'm like committing.
Good policy.
Good policy, right? Go where the Wi-Fi is strong.
Yeah, always.
Oh, but thank you for joining me and thank you for doing the interview. I think we're going to have quite a lot to talk about today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I know. So let's go way back then. So you weren't born in England. You were born in Belfast, am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Although I always feel a bit of a fraud talking about it. But yeah, my whole family's Irish. I was born in Belfast and we moved over here when I was 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so I always, especially at the moment, I've been looking at people on holiday in Northern Ireland and like the North Atlantic coast there. I'd really recommend it for a little kind of like almost a staycation if you ever want to go. Yeah. It's a beautiful part of the UK that people don't consider. Like Northern Ireland is amazing.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, but you haven't got the accent then, so you did move over here early enough to not have the beautiful accent.
Oh, it's long gone. I really vividly remember at school, like I wanted to lose it. Like I've got friends who kept. I'm so sorry. Somebody's knocking at my door. 1 sec.
This is what happens on lives. It's fine. I'm like wanting to see what it is now.
What is sorry.
Fun? What was it?
Yeah, it was something my daughter had ordered. You don't even want to know. The things we on
Amazon.
The things we're spending money on at this point in lockdown.
I know. I ordered some bathroom scales the other day because I was like, I need to get a handle on where this weight is. Like, I need to understand how bad we're in. So yeah.
I'm really not sure whether scales is a good idea, but. Good luck, Claire.
I'll let you know. I'll compare. Anyway, so you came to England quite early though, right? You moved over here.
Yeah. So do you know what? I consider home to be Berkshire, which is where I live now, and it's where I spent most of my childhood. And yeah, so this is home really.
And then you studied. So I studied English language and literature for my degree, and I see you did literature, right?
Yeah. Where did you go?
I was at University of Leicester. So exactly, somebody put a video up the other day because it's 18 years since our graduation yesterday. So I was like, oh God, I don't really want to see that video of us all getting on stage being like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, you've got a few years on me. It must be 20, at least 20 years since I graduated this summer. 22, I reckon.
And do you have fond memories of studying literature then? Did you books you love?
Yeah, my goodness. Do you know what? One of the greatest privileges I've had in my life was a free university education. So all I had to think about was which subject I wanted to do and I loved the most. And English was always the subject that I loved the most. I had no idea what career it was leading to. And I didn't really have to worry about that, I suppose, because I wasn't borrowing a huge amount of money in order to study it. But yeah, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, mine was the year that Tony Blair changed it, I think. So we had to pay. But I kind of had a bit like love-hate relationship with my degree, because we had to read, so obviously, as you did too, I had to read so much it almost put me off the reading, because a lot of it was so heavy as well, and you're like, oh, I'm just exhausted. And yeah, sometimes some of them are so intense, so it's hard to love them after that.
Yeah, I mean, as an English graduate, I have really bad spelling, really poor knowledge of grammar, and I don't read very much. But
excellent.
Still...
God, we need like a club, don't we, of like people who like, we did love it and we studied it, but it's hard afterwards. Like a recovery group. So how did you get from doing that to your, which I think your amazing first job, your big break, was Chris Moyle Show, which I think sounds enormous fun.
Yeah, no, not quite. So I actually did work experience at my local radio station after graduating, and like instantly fell in love with broadcast journalism. I sort of thought about being a journalist, but thought that had to mean you had to write for newspapers at the time. But when I discovered you could do it for the radio, I was like, oh my God, I absolutely love every part of this job. It's brilliant. It's different every day. It's like seat of your pants stuff. It was so good. And then eventually, about 3 years later, I went back to college actually to do a postgraduate diploma in broadcast journalism, and then I ended up at Radio 1 Newsbeat. Yeah,
that's incredible. It must have been quite an exciting, like you're actually in the nerve center of it all. It must have been really exciting.
Oh, do you know what? Look back on it, it gives me goosebumps. It was the best job, the absolute best job working there. Amazing. I was plagued by imposter syndrome throughout the whole thing, because I was never very cool or anything, but it was still wonderful. It was amazing.
That's so cool. And do you have any like standout memories from there, like anything that you like, I just can't believe I did that day, or the people you saw coming in maybe, or
oh God, yeah. I mean, all kinds of people, literally probably anybody who was famous at the time, from Victoria Beckham, David Beckham, Robbie Williams, all of those people would come through the front door of that building. It was amazing.
Wow. Did you get starstruck, or did you get used to it?
No, definitely starstruck. Never got used to it. Absolutely not. Kylie Minogue, absolutely everybody. No way. I would never have spoken to them. I remember speaking to Davina Taylor in the lift when I was pregnant. This is before I left, and she gave me lots of advice on giving birth and things like that. But yeah, no, always starstruck, never cool.
That is so cool. So when did you decide to leave there then? Was that when you
yeah, after I'd had my second baby, Henry, so this is like 8 or 9 years ago, and it was commuting to London, and I just kind of couldn't see how it was going to work with the kids. But I mean, I would, if I could give advice to my younger self, I would probably have tried to look a bit more long term. But at the time, I just thought I'm going to have to leave and take a break and do something else. But I hope now that women get more advice on how to take their careers through that period of like, you have a few intense years and then actually you can really get back into your job. And I just couldn't look that far down the road. So I left the BBC then.
Oh, that must have been quite a nice amount of time. And was it quite crazy hours as well? That must have been hard to, because obviously the same, like, it must have been hard to work around.
I mean, it can be, and there can be this element of just having to drop everything and be like, I can do that, I can cover that, which obviously when you've got kids is really tricky. I suppose it depends on what your partner's job is and things like that, but you do, you get a bit fed up with working weekends and bank holidays and Boxing Days and New Year's Eves and that kind of thing, which is part of the job of being a journalist. So you do lose your enthusiasm for that, I think, after a few years. But I mean, it's a brilliant and mad organisation to work for, the BBC.
I bet you think of it's so fondly now, that like good times rolling, especially with all those people you mentioned. It's like the Kylies and the Robbies, and like that era of it just it was all so thrilling, wasn't it? Like that time.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was so good. I'm very lucky.
How did you have that period from that to then becoming Not About the Kids then? What happened in between?
Oh, well, a lot of childcare happened. I don't know how I don't know how the time passes the way it does, but I ended up about 7 years not working. I mean, I was with the kids. I always did loads of volunteering with like preschools and school and that kind of thing. I had the kids quite close together, so that was quite intense. But when they got over the age of about 5, I suppose, I was like, I really, really feel I have something else in me, and I couldn't quite work out what it was going to be. And then eventually I had a bit of coaching, which I would always recommend to people. It really, really helped me get out of a funk. And then I randomly went to an Instagram course, not completely randomly, but I didn't have in mind that it was going to turn into something that I would later use for a business. And that sort of got me kicked off.
Wow. So was that like a kind of a day course or a few hours or something? Just something that was...
It was an evening thing. Have you ever heard of the Guardian masterclasses?
Oh, yes, I did one for video. It's really good.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I did that. I did a Guardian masterclass on Instagram, and then I did one on blogging, and that sort of got me kicked off. They're really good, actually. If anybody fancies a little kind of, they tend to be in the evening. I went for an evening one.
Yeah, I think I went for a morning, and what I liked about it was, or it may have even been a day, but it was just so all encompassing, and I didn't have to think like, oh, can I do every Wednesday until Christmas? And like that just really appealed to me. I was like, okay, I can get in and get out, and at least I know if I like something or not, and want to do more of it. So yeah, it does kind of happen. So
they're really good taster. In fact, you know what? It'd be like a little ambition of mine to actually do a Guardian masterclass.
Oh
maybe
God,
I should maybe I should pitch for one.
Yes, absolutely. I think it'd be great. It's the video one I did actually was the reason why I struggled, because I came to your video thing after that, about a year after that, and because he was all talking about landscape and editing for almost like a TV program. It was really, really useful, but it wasn't what I was doing. So it was like half of the story, and then you gave me the rest of it. Like, okay, fine, I understand it now. It's much easier. So yeah, it's interesting. They're all quite niche, aren't they? So yeah, you definitely get in there.
Filmmakers are quite religiously horizontal in their filmmaking. That's like the proper way to make videos.
Yeah.
And it is the way to make videos for TV and for websites and whatnot. But if you're using Instagram a lot, then
we're just rule breakers. That's what we are. So how did you come up with the name Not About the Kids? Was it organic? Did you get a bit of help? Did it just come out of like a lightning bolt out of nowhere?
It's a mood. It was kind of like, I mean, do you know what? I actually don't believe in spending a lot of time thinking about names for things. I think it can really get in your way of getting on with stuff. So I needed to pick an Instagram account name or a blog name that wasn't already taken, you know, like my name had been taken many, many years ago and that kind of thing. So it was just about the spirit of what I was doing, which was getting back to work. I really didn't want to talk about parenting and kids. Like I just wasn't interested in sharing that stuff. It's like it's a huge part of my life, but it's not something I want to be part of my work life. I think there's loads of people doing it brilliantly already. You don't need my take on it. So it was just that I wanted to make it clear that it was a place that we could talk about our ambitions, like what we want from our lives next, something that makes it clear that we're really separate to our roles as mums, you know, all of that stuff. And I just came up with it, and I've sort of stuck with it, and I think maybe one day I'll change it just to Helen Perry or whatever, but for now I still sort of stand by the mood of it, I suppose.
I think it's great. You've like almost like just become this coach, but I guess that's evolved, hasn't it? So you kind of am I right in thinking you kind of that you evolved like your USP, and like you came to it like you can see the evolution, I think, when you go back through your grid a bit.
Yeah, you could. I think when I first started doing Instagramming to see, because I'd been on Instagram for years, but I was going to see if I could grow an Instagram following. I sort of was a bit confused about how you did that. I was like, do you have to talk about clothes? Does it have to be about makeup? Is the only way that you can make money out of this to kind of be an influencer? So I posted a lot of stuff that actually wasn't really me. Like I like clothes and things well enough, but I am no expert. So, you know, I was posting a load of different stuff, and at that time I was also sharing kind of what I was learning about Instagram growth at the time, and it became clear that that was the thing that people came to me for most often, that they were, you know, I have some communication skills through being a journalist. It's the way I like to work. I enjoy taking photos, so I could sort of bring together all the things that I kind of was sort of happened to be fairly good at, along with a kind of fairly geeky enthusiasm for studying Instagram and how it works.
Like,
and that's just been the material that people have enjoyed the most. It was what I was getting asked to speak about. And then about a year ago, I was like, you know what, I need to really niche down. I need to make it clear that's what my account is about. And ever since making that really clear decision, that's when my business has taken off.
So you were literally quite strategic, like, so you did lots of experimenting, stacks of experimenting, even sharing what your experiments were, and then eventually you're like, that's it now, strategy time, and I'm going to change it.
Yeah, I mean, to say strategic would probably be over crediting me. It was been a real.
I love how like, you're like, yeah, not almost.
I don't think I can say it was a strategy. I think I would say I'm probably in a place of being more strategic now, but it was a huge learning experience, and kind of just, I spent a lot of time just becoming immune to the massive cringe worthiness of putting yourself out there on social media, which if you're not a kind of, you know, my kids will not find that weird. I find it really weird, the idea of putting your photo or video out there. So it took a lot of time to get over that. And that's also something I help people with now, you know.
Yeah, same. Like I work with amazing business founders, and it's amazing how off-putting it can be to be like, you just kind of need to do a video, and then working through that where it's like, it's okay, just try one, and it's really small, and then we can build up. And it is, you forget once you've been doing it for a little bit how hard it is to start again, because it's almost like you just have to practice it, don't you, and do it more and more, and you do lose the fear of it because you just like, well, you know, I'm used to it now. And it is, sometimes just down to actually getting on with it, isn't it? Just being brave.
It's quite literally the only way. And I know that you work with people, I know you work with your clients on this, because you've said to me before, you're like, hold on a minute, people are looking to me for advice, and I don't feel like I'm the massive expert, but you forget how far you've come, you know. I think, and people really struggle with it. The only way to get over it is to do it and live with the fact that the first few that you do may not be that awesome. But
that's what I always say. I'm always like, the first ones will be terrible, and it's fine. Like, we have to get over those and then get to the good ones. But people see great results with it as well, and I think it is a rewarding thing to do, because once you do start putting your face on camera, you do get so much more rapport with people, and then it grows. So it's not like it doesn't reward you for the bravery. At least it does. Like, it is kind of that buzz you get from doing it.
Yeah, rapport is the word, isn't it? It's people just get the, you know, it's one thing posting a photo of yourself and it's still and it's lovely and it's edited, but people only really get an idea of what you're all about when they see you chatting. They think, oh, okay, so that's where she comes from, or that, you know, I don't know. It just breaks down so many barriers if you can work with it and you can get comfortable with it. Like you say, you'll get lovely feedback, and that, again, that helps you be more comfortable with it, and so on and so on.
It's so true. Like, even people, when I first did a story, I think they were like, oh my god, you're from the north, I didn't know. And it's like, well, why would you? Because I've just been putting like these static pictures on, right? So yeah,
and you was in London,
breaks it all down straight away. Like, I'm normal, it's okay. It's quite nice.
Exactly. It really helps people love to be able to put you in context. They really, really like those little things that helps them, that maybe are a point of connection, or, you know, that just make them feel like maybe you're not perfect, or you struggle with things as well, or you know.
And
anything that you can do.
And you were a massive like early adopter to the video and to stories and to IGTV as well. Do you think that's been pretty important in your journey, or has it just been part of your experimental process and you were like, oh, I quite like it?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I mean, I read a lot of stuff about, you know, digital marketing, and so I was aware, you know, of the like do video. If you read about that kind of thing, you know, you'll get a lot of, you know, video is the future, everything's going to be in video in the next few years. So, you know, so I was like, okay, so I think I should try and do some videos. I think I should try and use a bit of IGTV, yeah, for me, and it's not the thing for everybody, but for me, it has absolutely transformed the way in which I think my audience see me as knowing what I talk about. You know, it just helps me prove that I actually know what I'm talking about. And I think that's the main thing.
I think that's where we're quite similar, actually, because I found when I was, because I've just written a new about me page for my website, because my current one says nothing really, and my whole point about it is I have been where all the founders are that can't do this right now, because I have been terrified, and I've had to do the blog post, do the newsletter, do the video. I've had to push through every single thing that goes, no, you can't do this, you've got imposter, like, what are you doing? I've had to push through it every single time. So I feel like now I'm actually somewhere where I can say, you can do it because I've done it, and I know what you're going to be fearing, and it's going to be okay, and we're going to do it together. And I think that's why you're probably such a great coach as well, because you're like, well, I've got all this, all these other posts that didn't work, or all these hashtags, or whatever it is. You're like, I've done it all too. So I think a lot of people really look to you. I've had such great feedback from your interview, people saying how much you've helped them as well.
Because that's nice. That's lovely.
It is.
I mean, oh God, who wants to hear from everybody who thinks they've got all the answers? I mean, for every success, I'm sure I've had at least a dozen rubbish things, or distinctly average posts, or things that didn't really connect, things I've spent hours putting together and just weren't worth the time. But I really feel like I'm getting there, and I feel like I'm getting there in the past year. But if I'd stopped, because it'll be almost 3 years coming up, but I could have easily stopped so many times. But it's been a real lesson in persisting with something, and what that, like, the accumulation of knowledge over time. And I'm in 5 years I'll know so much more than I know now, but I've got to go through the embarrassing failures and getting things wrong in order to get there. It's part of the fun. I welcome it now.
It's kind of, yeah, that's a nice way to think about it. Like, if you don't put much pressure on things as well, you're like, okay, that didn't work, but that's okay, because I'm going to learn. It's like a little bit more. Like, if you give up, like, it is persistence. I do find that people find it hard when things either don't work or people say no to you. And I've spent my whole career having people say no to me, so I'm like, that's normal. And people are like, really, is it? I'm like, yeah, like, failure, saying no, that's absolutely fine. Just keep going. So I think, it's like that resilience, isn't it? That keeping going. So I was going to ask you about because your personal branding and the brand of your business is so strong, and even if you go all the way back, you have still kept that thread running all the way through. So how important has it been, like, pretty much out the blocks you've had this kind of look and colors and fun, and has that been really thought through, or did it have a bit of evolution?
There was maybe a little bit of strategy in there, having sort of denied the fact that I had any strategy. Actually, being honest, at the time when I started my Instagram, the aesthetic was very muted, desaturated, greys, pinks, white, look very so that was absolutely everywhere on Instagram at the time. And I must admit, it just doesn't feel like me. I don't know much about color psychology, but I'd actually be quite interested to learn. Like, I am drawn to stronger colors, they look better on me. I tend to pick them out. So, but I also thought it was a way to make me visually distinct from everything that was around at the time. So yeah, it was thought through, and I've kind of gone with that. And I would maybe say I'm going through a process of dialing it back a tiny bit. I've dialed it back a little bit on my website relaunch, because I don't want it to be too cartoony and too much of and also you do pay attention to what people seem to like, and people are drawn perhaps to slightly softer palettes. I don't want people to go onto my website and just be like, wow, what, what's this isn't very welcoming. So I'd say my website is a little bit dialed back from my Instagram.
Yeah, I think what's really great about yours is, like, I always know what post is yours. Like, whenever it drops through the feed, like, it's unmistakably going to be you. And even when I posted your picture on my channel, I knew people would know exactly who it was straight away, because aesthetically it is so strong. So I think you've done a really, really cracking job with that. It's not easy, is it? Like, creating that brand.
No, it's not easy, but I do think there is a benefit to being recognizable. I'm not a specialist in visual branding, but it sort of makes sense that if people can know you quite quickly, there is a benefit in that, I think.
What would you recommend to people that are just starting out and not really sure what identity to pick? Would you think they need a bit of a specialist, or when you're really just starting up, can you just look for your own kind of USPs?
I think you should, if you want to come up with your own visual brand, I really think you should start with what you like and what feels like, especially if it's your own personal brand, which a lot of the time it is. A lot of people that I'm talking
our space, yeah.
I really, really think you should be like, don't be like, oh, everybody's doing peaches and blues, or everybody's doing greens and palm leaves, and so that's what I must do. I think you should really be like, actually, what do I like? What do I pick clothes-wise? What do I put up around my house in terms of pictures and things? And really, truly kind of find a palette that you're drawn to naturally, because also then perhaps parts of your house will suit the photos that you take, and the place that you go will be the right kind of aesthetic. And then I work with a designer, because I'm not a designer, and he'll say, you know, pick probably 2 main colors and then have like 4 or 5 secondary colors, and stick with that palette. Try and stick with it so that it kind of, it all sits together, and then don't worry about it too much. I'm not one for a real perfect grid. I think you can waste a load of time on that, and it doesn't.
The time for the perfect grid feels like it's slid away. But I think that's just you do feel like
it's just a waste of our time.
Yes, I know, because I used to do quotes all rigidly, and the number of times I was like, oh damn it, I've not put a picture in between the things, and I was going crazy. I was like, I just don't have time to have this amount of worry in my life. It's just gonna have to go. So I let it go.
And also, just who's looking at it apart from you? No one.
No one. This is it. Just get on with it, isn't it? Oh, what you call it? Just bloody post it.
Just bloody post it. But all, I mean, having said that, it is worth having a look at what your competitors are doing, and what their aesthetic is, and what people seem to be liking, looking like the hashtags that other people are using, and see what they're posting, and if it's aligned with your audience, like take note of it, but then take note of it and think, okay, how can I sort of reflect that, but also be me and be recognizably me, and not just be posting stuff that is just like everybody else's.
Agree. Yeah, it's a challenge for everyone, and I think we can almost spend so much time worrying about it and looking at everyone else, you forget to just get on with your own stuff a little bit. So I think take note of it, and then just try and have some consistency and get on with it.
And the absolute best, like number one thing I would say is just post a lot, because that's how you find your true style. That's how you find what people will like. That's how you find what's kind of like quite easy for you to keep doing, because I went through a period of like really wanting to have these amazingly beautiful photos every time, and it was so time consuming taking these photos and staging them. I mean, God, it was just such a waste of my time. But equally, I mean, I had to go through that to learn from it or whatever, but you know, just you need to have a posting style that's easily maintainable, and that resonates with your followers.
Otherwise you just won't do it, right? So are you a planner, or are you did you like to post on the fly?
Pretty much, it's quite on the fly. I maybe think of it a few days in advance, and obviously if I'm launching something tomorrow, so I've thought about that, obviously. But no, I'm pretty spontaneous-ish about. I tend to think about it the night before. I try to be more spontaneous these days, but I think that's as a result of being more comfortable with what I post.
I think that's the aim, isn't it, to almost get to, like, I love a bit of scheduling. I don't do it for myself, but for businesses, obviously, that you kind of have to, because you need to sign it off and everything. But for me, like, I find like you almost want to be plugged into what's going on. I think Lorna Lux said that she doesn't really schedule. She doesn't want to schedule because she likes to see what the mood is on the grid before she posts something. I'm like, it's true, isn't it? Like, you feel like it's walking into a room and seeing like what's going on before you chuck out your message. Like, you feel like you want to feel that's what's going on first. So I mean,
you're in PR, you know, the sensitivities of life at the moment. I mean, 2020 has like made everybody throw their schedulers out, And I definitely feel that. I definitely feel like kind of like what it's more about my captions really. I'm like, what's on my mind? Like what's on everybody's mind? How are people feeling? So it feels a bit, I've tried to schedule, but it feels a bit more natural to me to
Yeah. It's
to
funny,
do it.
I know exactly what you mean with it, although I would still sit there as a PR and tell you to schedule, because like that, all that control and that feeling of it. But I'm totally with you. It just feels like the right thing. And then also that, you know, you're present and you're going to be, you know, chatting to other people. If people comment, you're not like AWOL because you forgot you scheduled it at whatever time. So
Yeah, it depends on the business, doesn't it? You know, if I had an accessories brand or something, then you would be scheduling the shit out of that, wouldn't you? You'd be like, you know, you've got earrings this morning and handbags tomorrow and that, but then maybe you would have some live considered personality stuff that went in with that you would do as you felt it, you know. So it depends how much product, I suppose, you're trying to launch. But if you're just doing personal, if it's just personal brand building, and I think as authentic as your voice can be, the better.
So interesting. And then, so you've gone on to such almost more things. You've gone on to courses. So you obviously started off doing your courses with Antonia, and then you've kind of been branching out on your own, and now you're pretty much doing a course every week or so. So yeah, well, completely transformed in about a year or so, would you say?
Yeah, and you know, we've met at a live workshop, and that is mainly what I was teaching before lockdown. And then I realized how really truly flexible it is to be able to do live digital workshops, or not live ones that people can download from my website. So that that's my future business plan at the moment, I would say, is live events, workshops that run with me or that people can download and do in a self-paced way. It's just a case, Claire, of writing the things.
Yes, as it always comes down to, isn't it? You're like, that's a great idea, and I have to do the work now.
If anybody would like to come and write the courses for me, I'd love it. No, I'm working on things all the time. I hopefully have some stuff to launch between now and September, and then something bigger in September. So yeah, you know, and I have loved working out how to monetize my digital audience, because again, going back to the early days, I think I thought in order to monetize an Instagram audience that you had to work with brands or get sponsored,
which is a presumption,
you know. And I didn't appreciate that I could be in control of my own destiny a bit more than that, and I can monetize my audience in so much as they would like to work with me, you know. But I feel really good about being in control of that and not sitting around waiting for somebody else to pick me and say that what I've built is valuable enough to their brand or whatever, because, you know, big brands need huge followings in order to really scale their sales, and I don't need to have 50,000 followers in order to make this my job. So that's been a really wonderful revelation for me in the last year or so.
And how did it go confidence wise? Were you kind of one of these people that were like, oh, course, easy, I'll just rock up with my notes? Or was it like terrifying and you had to really prepare? And
I have not really done public speaking or speaking to groups of people before I did this job, but I am quite a chatty person. I think that I sort of knew I'd probably be quite comfortable with it, but I guess it took me a year or so of standing in front of a room to feel good about it. I still get nervous before every workshop. I think that's probably quite a good thing. It keeps you focused, doesn't it? Yeah, and you know, and also I'm always looking to improve. I've never been a teacher before, so I'm sort of saying I can teach you this, but there are ways that are doing that are better than others. So I still feel like I'm very much learning the best way to teach.
Yeah, I bet. And do you have any tips for other people that are going to be going, trying to start things up like that? Have you a font of knowledge now? Because you've done enough. Like you must, you've done Zooms, you've done live, you've done the whole lot.
Yes. I would say, do you know what? I would say if you've got a little idea for like an online workshop or an online course, just go for it. Absolutely go for it. Start sending it. Use a platform like Eventbrite. host it wherever you feel comfortable. I do mine on Zoom, but there are obviously other video platforms. You know, people are absolutely up for online learning. I had no idea, even though I've done courses myself, I don't think I realized just how popular it was as a form of self-improvement, educating yourself at home. And the beauty of having a digital audience is that they can be anywhere in the world, because then they're connected with you, and you can get them on a Zoom in your office or in your bedroom or in your kitchen or wherever you're going to host it from, and you can start making money that way, and you can also strengthen your online community as well. It's a really amazing opportunity for people.
And all of this has obviously come from having such a great newsletter, because I know you're the big advocate of the newsletter, which is what I tell brands as well. I'm always like, you own that newsletter database, you don't own Instagram, so like nurture that as much as possible. But you've been doing the switch now for how long, I wonder?
I have been running a regular weekly newsletter for, I'd have to look back, about a year, I'm going to say, every week, apart from, I think I took Christmas off.
Yeah, you're allowed to take Christmas off. It's
thank
okay.
you. And again, that has been, I sell, here's how it works. So I have an Instagram audience. I try and get them onto my mailing list, and I do a nice value packed weekly newsletter, which is for the Instagram tips, social media news. So it's for people who like us, who are promoting our thing online. And then I send my marketing emails out for my courses, and I would say, I have to do the maths on it, Claire, but I reckon at least 60% of each course comes from the mailing list, not my Instagram, I would say.
It's like a super engaged like audience, isn't it?
They're the people who are really here for you, you know.
It's such value though, because I actually like watching your switch on your Instagram stories, because I enjoy the Will Smith and all the rest of it. It's my favorite bit. But I look, because I'm always like, really, how, like, because I work in this industry as well, like I'm like, and I still don't know all this stuff you unearth. I don't know where you get all this stuff from.
I have my sources, but it's good because it keeps me up to date as well. Just really writing it keeps me up to date. So yeah,
it's phenomenal. It's a real success. Like you must see great like Oprah rates on that. Everyone's like, what's happening this week? Where are we going with it?
Yeah, no, it's really good, and it's really nice that people enjoy it, and I feel so comfortable writing it because I know the people who signed up are like, they're interested. I feel like really comfortable with that. So it's a lovely thing to write, and it's a really effective tool for reaching my most interested people. So again, I mean, if you're thinking about, starting your mailing list, absolutely, it's worth your time, totally.
And it must bring like all those journalist skills like back out in you, like that's you've trained in all of that, you've like been probably doing it for years, and you know kind of how to probably structure things to keep people interested, and that storytelling is like really ingrained in you, I guess, isn't it?
I think I probably my one thing I always remember from writing the news is that you don't ever assume that anybody has got any background knowledge in what you're talking about. I remember some frightening statistic, like if you asked people today, if you went out and asked them who the Prime Minister is, about 60% of people wouldn't know who the current Prime Minister is. There's like people are not tuned in as much as you think they are to what you're talking about, even people in your industry. So always write from a point of view of no assumed knowledge, and don't use jargon, write in a way that your mum could understand what you've written, and keep people interested. No, they're not going to hang around for like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of copy. People are like busy. Busy.
Very good tips, actually. And speaking of kind of the new trends, new things coming through, how have you thought about platforms like TikTok and just general other social media platforms? Because I know Instagram is like clearly your first one, but you use the other ones too.
Instagram is obviously my happy platform. I think we all have one, don't we, where we feel really like we know what we're doing there. I would love to spend more time on LinkedIn. I think my business would really benefit from that because of what I sell. And people on LinkedIn tend to have bigger training budgets, which would probably be a way to scale my business up. And the engagement rates on posts. Do you do LinkedIn much?
I do, but I have this thing with LinkedIn where I have just massive imposter syndrome. So every time I put something on there, I think somebody's going to come out and say, you have, you know, what are you doing here, little girl? And I don't know why, like I just fear this like old grey man with a beard that's going to tell me I don't really know what I'm doing.
It
And
is a
therefore I
and
don't really commit myself to it. I'm like, oh, post and then I run away, sort of thing.
Yeah, sometimes, and so, also sometimes people do leave horrible comments on LinkedIn posts. Can be a bit twittery in that way, which I don't like. But it has got great engagement rates. I think there's so much potential to post stuff that's more interesting than what's on there, because every time I go on there, I'm like, wow, that's not interesting. So when I see a post that is good and well written, I think it really stands out. And I've had some really good engagement with video on there, but I don't have the time at the moment. But I would love to invest some more time in LinkedIn. Maybe that's something for 2021. TikTok, I mean, you know, it's clearly amazing if it doesn't get banned globally, because it seems like
does feel like that's going to happen.
It feels like it might
like a monster. They're going to say no.
I know. So you know, if it doesn't get banned, and if it doesn't, I think what is interesting about TikTok is looking at how you can learn from why that is so successful, about what to post on your Instagram, for example. It's just so fun and light, and it's a laugh, and the video editing technology is so amazing, and I think that's going to feed into what Instagram's able to do in future. But I mean, I can't personally see the benefit of me. If I was in the entertainment business, or if I was appealing to younger people, then I would be like, you've got to get
demographic.
You've got to get on TikTok. But I think my audience sits very firmly in 35 to 55. I have TikTok on my phone. I watch it. I think it's great.
Yeah. I like logged on, and then and then when you see a video and you realize how many views it's got, and you're like, it's astonishingly high number, and it just did like blow my mind a bit. But it feels like, yeah, like what would be the point in going in if you don't have a sort of reason? So I probably am exactly where you are. It's not quite my audience either, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe we would be proved wrong, Claire. I quite like Pinterest as well. I do a bit of Pinterest.
See, I'm a bit of a new one to Pinterest, and I've just been realizing that it's got like the most massive potential. But I have done something with it. Have you done quite a lot with it then?
I have invested, when I was blogging more, I invested more time in Pinterest, because it can bring lots of traffic back to your website. But actually, do you know what? I really need to block out a morning and create pins for my new downloadable content for my website. I haven't created that yet, but it is a really good way of actually, if your object is to drive people back to your website, it's a great tool for that. But I mean, I also use it for inspiration as well.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's so good, isn't it? I think that's a good mental note for both of us to go off and do our Pinterest.
Yes.
It's so easy though to get sucked in, isn't it? And it's really hard to find that time to nurture everything how it needs to be. Otherwise, you just feel like you're dipping in and out, and it's not really helping anything. So I'm with you with the prioritizing. I think Instagram seems to be that, like you said, happy place.
I think it's really easy, and I find it a lot with coaching clients, is they're like, oh, but I'm not doing Pinterest, and I've got to do my Facebook group, and you know what, we're only one person. It's really not possible. The chances are you're comparing yourself to somebody who's working with a team of people across a large number of platforms, and I have to accept this year that really I can only do Instagram properly and my newsletter and do my course creation in the background. That's my work, is teaching courses and writing them and creating products for the future. And you just have to say, I'm going to like not beat myself up about the fact that I haven't got awesome LinkedIn as well.
I think that's the important thing you've just said there, is that most of those things are yours and you own them, and the newsletters and the courses and everything is about building your business, and Instagram is owned by somebody else and you're using it as a tool that you love, but you're building yourself. And that's the important thing, because we just don't know if Instagram start making us advertising the way they did with Facebook, then we could be looking at a very different world should that happen, because Facebook did really nail in the coffin for a lot of brands, or smaller brands that couldn't afford the advertising. And suddenly you go from reaching your whole audience to like basically nobody overnight. And I think it's where the smart people are going to always make sure that they're looking after themselves first, and especially their newsletter, their blog, like their website, and just taking care of that in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a really, really good message, and I know that lots of people have doubling down and really focusing on that. Now, also that just the world showed itself to be really not as secure as we thought it was, we assumed it would be. So like you say, everything that you can own, everything that you can be in control of yourself, everybody that you can reach without relying on a third party.
Yeah,
that's
do that. That's probably
thing.
like our key message is this, like, just make sure you're looking after number one there, because they won't be at the end of the day, will they?
No.
And I think I asked you this in the interview as well, but you've obviously seen a great many changes in the industry. How has it changed for you in like the, I don't know, last 10 years? Like, must be enormous, the change.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of looking at it as a former like normal journalist, I mean, that industry has, you know, almost gone in a lot of ways, and continues to shrink and get smaller and smaller. Although I think maybe COVID has driven people more towards quality news outlets, but the need for you to have a digital audience, if you want to write and you want to share a message, and you know that's what publishers want you to have, it's just totally worth the investment to plug away and see growing your digital audience is something that you're going to be doing over the long term. And that it will always support your work. So I think if you're in that kind of businesses that we are, then I think you're going to struggle without one, perhaps. And I think that's what's different, is there was no onus on people to have their own digital, to own their own digital.
Very much in the background, wasn't it? Like, in the background, you're never visible. And I think that's why in some ways we struggle to then put ourselves on camera, because I've been so used to being like literally behind the scenes person. Like, you never see me, I'm like smoke. Like, and then suddenly you're like, oh heck. And that's a bit of a new skill to be developing.
Yeah, and my friend Antonia, who you know as well, who's also PR, and I know that she, over the last few years, it's actually a bit of a struggle to find your own voice when you're so used to writing in other people's voices.
Yeah, you spend your whole day like telling people what to do, and then you're like, oh, for me though, no. It's not too hard. It's really crazy.
Let's go. What? So you said that you're back in your flat now, though?
I am. I'm back in London. It is strange. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is strange. I got lost on the circle line the other day because I couldn't really remember how to use it. So again, like, why we've made the circle line so hard for tourists when even people who live here can't work it out. I just don't know what we're doing with that. But masks on.
Are you getting out and about for meetings and things? Is there a demand for that now?
No, not meetings as such. I've got the first thing that anyone's put into my diary is kind of the 29th, and you're like, okay, all right, that's where we're working to. But I went to the hairdressers, thank the Lord. Thank the Lord for hairdressers. So yeah, and I've got the dentist. Like, so things are kind of open, but it's not as easy. So I think it'll be a little while before you can freely just walk into a pub and go to the bar. Like, it's more like they seat you and they come to the table. So it's not quite as we expected it yet. So a few more months, I reckon. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. And then finally, then, since we've just talked about Antonia, in the business world inspires you, and we'll kind of shall we end on that. We can do like who you love.
Who I love on Instagram?
Yeah, who inspires you?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, let's get a notebook out.
There are so many. Do you know my absolute time waster on Instagram is Eva Chen, who is the Instagram's fashion head of fashion partnerships. If you were to search up Eva Chen, you'll find her, and her stories are just non-stop, and I'm here for it. I just follow. She shows you how to use Instagram in such a relaxed way, but also packed with value. It's so unpolished, and it's a real lesson in like not worrying about whether you've got the perfect picture, or you know, whether you look great, or she'll go from looking totally high end to ridiculous, you know, one day to the next. Her apartment is a mess, you know, all of that stuff. She's brilliant. I've always liked Sarah Tasker, me and Orla. She doesn't do as much Instagramming anymore as she used to. Who else do I like? Erica Davis, Alex Stedman, The Frugality. So many people,
So
many. I'll get off here and go, oh, why didn't I mention X?
Oh, well, we can always add them in later. And just finally, because you didn't say there was something coming soon for you, what's next for you? What have you got on the agenda?
Oh, okay. Actually, I'm going to run a couple of free sessions later this week about understanding your Instagram analytics. If that is something that you'd be interested in finding out about, then go and sign up for my newsletter. The link to do so is in my bio, because the free sessions tend to get booked up really.
Oh my God, they're crazy.
They get, like, well,
tickets
people
to take that reunion or something. Yeah, it's like...
I know. I mean, in fact, perhaps more popular.
I agree.
And I think what we can take away from that is that people like things to be free. Because, so that's coming up later this week, and then I'm launching a little workbook on hashtags in the next few weeks, and that's the first thing like that I'm going to sell, Claire. So that's a bit of it's going to be a low entry price point.
Yeah.
But that'll be interesting to see how it goes, because that's not something I've done before, so it's quite exciting.
Little experiment.
How about you? What's coming up for you?
What is coming up for me? Well, I really enjoyed doing these lives and these interviews. Like, it's something I did from the very beginning, and then I had a little break from, and every now and again I'm like, it's too hard, and then I'm like, why is it so hard? Just get on with it. That just bloody post it, right? So so I'm really enjoying finding people to chat to again, and I love finding the backstories of people, and because it's never quite as simple as they just turned up one day and were great at Instagram. There's always this mystique to it, and I love finding out how everyone got there. So, but I've definitely changed my thing from being that traditional PR to like more of a modern media specialist, I guess. But I love working with people, so people are my thing, and I love getting the best out of them and their businesses. So yeah, just more PR, I guess, but in a whole new way.
Yeah, you're doing it brilliantly. Go and have a look at Claire's website, by the way. It's looking amazing if you're watching. And oh my God, you got to talk to Pandora Sykes. So I was a bit starstruck. Yeah. I do love the high-low.
Yeah, she launches her book, I think it's this week. And yeah, I actually interviewed her way back when I first started. She's one of the first people I interviewed, and she was saying how I was like, oh, what's next for you? Will it be a book? And she was like, who only knows? And then all this time later, this book has arrived. So it's amazing for her. Like, she's been on this transformation from, like, she was a wardrobe mistress in the Sunday Times Style. So she was all about like print journalism, fashion journalism. And she's gone through this whole evolution, I guess. Now she's amazing at social commentary, and it feels like her and Dolly, it feels like they just say what you're thinking all the time. It's like, how do they know that we're all in the same boat? So yeah, enormously pleased that she's chatted to me again. It's a great read, actually, and I can't wait to get a hold of the book. Like, that's next on my list.
Yeah, she's brilliant. Well done.
Yay. Oh, well, thank you for chatting to me, Helen. It's been so good. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Bye, guys.
Later, my love. Bye.